Good morning and welcome to June 15th press conference. Thank you for joining us here. We'll kind of update you on things that are going on across the city, and then we'll be happy to answer your questions. To those with press credentials will be allowed to ask questions, and we'll answer those. We obviously try to follow up midweek. We'll be following up, and we'll answer questions from citizens and be happy to answer some of those as well. But at least starting out the day, COVID-19 obviously is still here. And some of the things that we've seen, the upticks we've recently seen, both in numbers of cases, testing percentage, and hospitalizations have all gone up. At this particular time, they're still under where we were even in May and certainly April, but we are watching. We have seen an increase, so we are watching those items. According to the Florida Department of Health, there are now 985 positive cases of COVID in Escambia County. Again, I don't have as many of those that are tested that are outside the area, but that's the total over the last 3 months. The last update from the state showed 3.1% positive test rate for June 13th, 1.1 for June 12th, and 3.4 for June 11th. Last week, test rates had less than 1% on most days. So again, it may be too early to start saying there's an upward trend, but the numbers in the last couple of showings have definitely seen some things going up. Hospitalizations have gone up as well. The number of hospitalizations as of yesterday, June 14th, is 19. Again, a week ago, that was at 9. So we just continue to follow what's happening with COVID. And continue to be watching to see what's going on. COVID is still something we're monitoring and taking seriously, and we ask you to continue to follow the CDC guidelines and take preventative actions. At this point, we don't see enough to transition us into a yellow, but we are definitely following things, and I will be in touch with all 3 hospitals today on a phone call at 2 o'clock, and we will be discussing this uptick and what this means and what we need to be doing. So again, we are staying on top of that issue. Last week on Thursday, we announced we had some discussions staff did with Cedric, and the idea came out that it would be good to have the committee members kind of go into their individual communities, get some information, and also participate with Cedric as he is calculating in getting this information and putting together what we're going to be doing with sort of the public safety Citizens Committee. Certainly law enforcement is going to be the major emphasis, but I think there is a potential that if there are other things that deal with fire or something else, there's the potential to use that as well. Obviously, I think the bigger portion of it will be law enforcement, but I think we're trying to keep it at public safety at this particular time. We gave city council members the opportunity to make an appointment to the Citizens Committee. There are 3 commitments already. Districts 1, 2, and 3 have made their picks. District 1 has committed to Laura McKnight. District 2 has committed to Charles Bear, and District 3 has committed to Drew Buchanan. And again, from my standpoint, the mayor's office will have 4 appointees, which will comprise a total of 11. At this point, we've looked to make commitments to both Haley Morissette and to Kyle Cole, and we are still looking for 2 others. And if you could please send your information, we will eventually need resumes on all the individuals as we approve going forward. But in putting the committee together, we need that, and we will start that process with those individuals. We hope to finish that by June 19th. We've asked all the council members to have their committee member in by June 19th. So I imagine the other 4 will get me a person this week to serve on the committee, and I will round out my 2 commitments as well. Once we have the entire group assembled, we will task the members with going into the community to gather input. Once we have input, the committee will meet together and talk about what their role will be going forward. Note the city will schedule at least 1 town hall member with committee members and Cedric, but we want to be able to narrow the focus of the town halls in order to make them more productive. Today, community resource centers are opening. We are pretty much now open all across the city except for City Hall. City Hall is expected to open on July 7th when we have the emergency declaration will be ended both at the state level and the city level this particular time, and we will be opening City Hall at that point. We've certainly been moving all of our departments to come back more online and bringing people in. Community resource centers, our community centers, they began opening today, Monday, June 20th. Only youth participating in summer camps will be allowed in the Cobb, Fricker, Gull Point, and Woodland Heights resource centers Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 6. General public will be granted access to fitness centers and limited adult and family programming. As we continue to move forward, we will look at opening and widening that amount up. But at this particular time, we're trying to be very focused on our youth camps and then some of the other programming that we have outside of that. The Bayview Senior Center will remain closed until further notice. They continue to have virtual programming. If you're a senior and you would like to get involved in some of that, they are continuing to run some highly successful virtual programming. And I did at least want to call attention to the staff and what they've done. They've tried to rebalance what they're doing. Obviously, we know our seniors are most at risk for COVID. And so we continue to find ways that they can participate. We can communicate with them and have an opportunity for them to share and be with other seniors, but do it in a virtual way. And I really commend the staff for continuing to work that way. If you're a senior out there and you would like some more information, I would say go on our website to our senior centers and community centers and follow that information, and you can provide your name and email and whatever information is needed to get into our virtual seniors programming. So we'd love to have you. It's been a great program, and they will continue to be virtually programming until we get an all clear from the state that we can begin to bring our senior centers back up and have gatherings in those locations. But those at least still remain closed at this time. The TPO will have a virtual public workshop. The workshop is hosting a virtual workshop for Tuesday, June 16th at 5:30 p.m. to discuss the needs plan portion of the 2045 long-range transportation plan. The needs transportation plan outlines transportation needs anticipated for the next 20 plus years for portions of Escambia and Santa Rosa County. For more information on how to participate, visit ecrc.org, ecrc.org. Last week, I met with Secretary Gaynor. We talked about some street lighting in some areas. I think we're going to see some more street lightings. We also talked about some challenges of some places that we can do some joint landscaping and better landscaping in some areas on state roads. So we're working on that with the state. We also discussed obviously the two-way of both of MLK and Davis, and that continues to move forward, as well as the potential diet for what could happen on Palafox. So I think we are progressing on a number of different initiatives with DOT. The last thing was obviously the Florida Trails, continuing to work with them with Escambia and Santa Rosa County on trying to get a trail and funding through the Florida Trail system for a multi-use path on Scenic Highway. That continues to be a priority that we think it can really connect downtown with much of the trail networks all the way out to Santa Rosa County at UWF and Escambia County, and really can serve as a way to connect all the way really to Perdido Key as we go through downtown. So we are working on that. That's just one of the efforts we've said we need to be making to make this a more of a pedestrian bike community, and we will continue to focus on those things. Also, just a reminder as well for you that 2020 census is still out there. There's still time, and we remind you to if you have not completed your census, we are ahead of the we're ahead of some of the places locally around us, but we still are not near our goal of 80%. We would love for you to take the opportunity, if you haven't, fill out your census, get your information in. And again, that would be great. We'd love to have, that's very important, count for things that are allocated to our community, to Pensacola and Escambia County. It is essential for both of us for the funding that we end up getting and receiving both at the state and federal level, that we have your numbers and that those get in there. So please take the time to fill out your census. It's really easy. They can do it. It's online, but if you don't have the access to computer, you can do it via phone. So there are a number of ways that we're working at it. Casey Lagarde here at the city has been in charge of that. If you have questions, please get in touch with her, and we will make sure we find a way for you to be able to access and get your information in. It literally, I did it. It took me 10 minutes for my whole family. We did it. It was very easy. So we were able to get that done. Then lastly, you probably saw last week, we had the city council meeting, which has moved forward. I think last week when a lot of things came up with us about about Lee Square, we were significantly behind and really didn't have many answers last week. But by Wednesday, I felt like we had done a lot of research, both on the statute itself, the requirements. Last Monday, it would seem to be the assumption that the mayor's office could simply do this on its own. Obviously, after briefing with legal last Tuesday, we found out that indeed, because of the ordinance passed back in 2000, that this has to go through council and has to go through council in a certain way. We indicated on Wednesday we were going to be bringing it forward, along with the renaming of Lee Square. The council moved forward at their last meeting, and so both those items will happen on July 16th, which will be in a lot of ways good because the chambers will be open for citizens to come in and have open dialogue. We have received, the council members, I know myself, have received numerous emails and communications via phone and a variety of other ways about the statute, and obviously that will all be weighed and move forward. I can tell you at this particular time, the mayor's office, as we said, we've tasked staff with looking at the monument, asking the question. We believe that again, it should be Florida Square as we move forward to represent all of Florida as we celebrate 200 years. Part of that will be asking the question that we've asked them to do is even though I've said I do not believe it currently as it sits, it is representative of everyone. We asked them to ask that question. Then we asked the question, could it be made representative to be representing everybody? And again, that's been my belief for some time. I know I've talked years ago with Rick out there. I've talked about this thing that I thought that we could do a better job of telling the entire story and do a better job of that and be more inclusive. And then if the answer is yes there, the question was how much, and then there's a recommendation. From my standpoint, I will live by the recommendation of what comes out of staff. That will be what we move forward, and we'll continue to move that to the meeting on July 16th is the position of staff in the mayor's office. But again, I know this is a very divisive topic, but I am very proud of the way, for the most part, we as Pensacolians have handled it. The protests have been peaceful. All the other things that have been there, and the discussion, we've had the opportunity to have discussion and do it in a way that has been nonviolent, and how we can end up continuing to have the focus on the discussion. And I think that will continue to go forward to the July 16th. I know I received one email from a lady who said, hey, I wish we could have everybody's something that represents everybody up there at the same time, just like we all live together. And I responded back to her that I very much appreciate her stance. I agree with her. Unfortunately, I realize there are only like 4% of the population actually agrees with that position, but we will work out what we can as we work through that discussion. I think the main point, as we've said from the beginning, what we've got to do is stay focused on respectful dialogue and discussion and debate. And as long as we can get that, and as long as we're focused on that the outcome will be inclusive in whatever we do and how we work together as a community. The most critical part for me is what comes out of this, whatever decision is made by the council on the 16th. We as a community have to be able to move forward and do the things that we're doing to make a better community. We're going to do that, as we move forward in what we represent. In fact, right now, through the efforts of the Northwest Florida Historic Trust over at UWF, the UWF West Florida Historic Trust has been working to put together a middle passage marker. The city has been working on that as well. So again, we have been working since I've gotten here and less than 2 years ago about being inclusive in what we do and how we tell the story of everyone. We clearly believe that's the way we should do it, and we're trying to do that going forward. But ultimately, we will work with whatever we need to. The staff recommendation that comes down, we'll submit that to council, and then from there, we'll work with council and whatever happens after that. But whatever we do, again, we need to be thoughtful, deliberate, and respectful. If we can do those three things, however we get through this, will be the more important part is what we go forward. As I've said many times, we come from a vastly different backgrounds that we've come here together. But what's only important in that is that we've come together in that. What's much more important than the past that's different that we have and where it's come from. What is more important is the future that we all hold together here in Pensacola and working together. Toward that end, this office will continue to be focused on what we can do to make the future better and how we can work together for a better community. But with that, I'm open to your comments and questions, and I'll look forward to Casey if you tell me what questions we have.
All right. The first question is from Andrew McKay. What specific powers will the Citizens Advisory Committee have?
I think that's still up to them as they're going to be doing discussions and seeing what's happened. I think at this point, as a mayor's committee, it's envisioned that they're able to make recommendations back to the mayor for operations, and if there are things in ordinance that need to change, they'll be able to make that to council. So I believe those are the recommendations, but much of it will be focused on what we can do and how we can make our policies and our operations better. That's what we've tried to be focused on with Cedric. And I know there's been a lot out there that was concerned about, timing issue. I think at the end of the day, there was really only one choice that we made. You can be critical of that choice, but I believed it was more important when we look at the operation of what we have and our men and women that are out there serving us in the police force. It was more important to give them the proper training than the creation of the committee. Again, nobody expected 3 months being lost to a worldwide pandemic. But again, that's sort of where we are at this particular time. And I think, when we hired Cedric in November and we gave him 2 deliverables. I mean, we wanted the training and we eventually wanted to figure out what to do with this committee as we move forward. So he's moved as fast as he's gotten done on his training. We didn't anticipate 3 months to be lost to COVID, but we did make the decision that we thought training was more important to begin to focus on that training, so we didn't make errors because we weren't training. The last thing we wanted to do is have a citizens committee tell us that we just needed more training. We already knew that. We wanted to get focused on the training. So again, if we get more stuff that comes out of this, we'll look to our operations and what we can do.
Next question is from Jeremy. What is the threshold for pulling back going to yellow on reopening?
Jeremy, I think we've indicated for our own staff it would be cuts of 15. We'd be down 15% of staff on our emergency operations public safety staff that's making deliverables, police, fire, EMS kind of things that would be making deliverables to you. That's where we go to yellow. We go to red at 30% down. That's where we can't function anymore. From a hospitalization standpoint, I think what we saw even in April is the hospitals were more than able to function capacity, 29, 30 in the hospital. As we move up higher than that, I don't know where that threshold kind of is. It's one of the things I'll be talking today at length with all 3 hospitals, but I met with them 2 weeks ago, and they said, each hospital had over 100 ventilators, and there were a fraction of those were being used. I mean, I'm talking 1%, 2% utilization. So I'll have a good idea today after I've talked to them, but I think we're really basing it off of if we go to yellow, it would be based off something significantly more of an impact. Remember, we're at 3 and 4%. We were at 6% for over 6 weeks through March and April. So again, I think we have seen an increase. It is something we're alerted on, and we are watching it. but we're not even over what we had in March and April. And March and April ended up for us, certainly some communities went sort of into the yellow-red. We stayed pretty much what we would have thought of in a green the whole way. So at this particular time, we're very cognizant on what that means to our citizens and our businesses out there. We're watching it. We're reminding everybody right now that there is an increase, and that if they could use masks and everything else that we're working on, we probably could do a better job of keeping that spread from happening. But that's where we are.
And this is from Jeremy as well. Any further discussion on visiting Streamline Boats facility?
We actually are talking about that right after this. We last week we met with we had some discussions with the group in Miami and our legal counsel, and again, much of that centered around the challenges of the group that will be formed here will be in operations very similar to Miami, as our understanding. The ownership may be different, but the ownership is just an ownership. So we're still trying to work through our understanding, and we're discussing right after this. We'll be discussing whether we're going to move forward with sending a group down there, because it's fairly expensive to do. I think we need to make sure that it's going to be worth our visit. If there are challenges that are hanging us up right now that we're not sure about, then we might want to move on. So we're going to have that discussion right after this, and then we'll be moving forward. But I'd like to talk with Amy, Keith, and Dick Barker and kind of strategize as far as, is this something we really want to do, and figure out what do we want to do, and if so, we'll send the group down there.
This is from Jeremy as well. Have you spoken with Kyle Cole any further in regards to protest location?
We have talked with Kyle. We talked with Kyle last week, had the opportunity. I know that Chief Leiter met with him. I met with Kyle. Again, it's unfortunate that it was presented in the media that we said they had to move. What we said was we made suggestions, and again, we talked to them about what we saw as far as risk that we saw with the current location. We certainly understand and respect they're going to be where they are. We've told them, again, we just need to work and make sure that we can be as safe as we need to in that location. The issues dealing with the train, the issues dealing with the trestle. So again, all those things are continuing to be discussed. I think you saw on Thursday they were over here at City Hall. If they want to move over here later on, they're certainly welcome to move to City Hall. That invitation is always open, but we've never said we were going to force anybody to do something. We simply said there are challenges, and there might not be challenges so much from what the group saw, but certainly there are from what public safety looks at that area.
All right, another question from Jeremy. Will the citizen committee be able to look into issues or incidents that happened in the past, or only looking forward?
I mean, if we want to learn from issues of the past, we're more than happy to learn from them. I don't think the idea. I think the idea is how do we become a better force? I mean, we can certainly look at those things. I think the better question is to look at us since we've begun the training with Cedric and try to figure out where we're going. But everything that happened in this process, as I said before, the mayor of Houston last week at the funeral was said, at the end of the day, he was going to put forward the whole 8 can't wait, the chokeholds, all these other things. These are things the city of Pensacola has already been doing. The cameras, the body cams, a variety of other things. PPD is well ahead of most cities, not just in Florida, but in the United States, in what we were already doing. That doesn't mean that you don't have things that happen from time to time, and certainly the issue that happened last July, that was focused on. And I tend to look at it as, again, I can't control what happens. We have rules so that we don't have any crime in Pensacola. Crime still happens. Then that's where we end up having police, and we go forward. If there's a problem that happens in the police force, the question is, did we hold them accountable to the rules that are there? The rules that are there for a reason. I look back at it and clearly show that the city of Pensacola did all it could to be responsible and accountable to its own rules, and we will do that. And we've sent that message very clear. We've also been very clear with our police officers, that we're going to work with them to be better trained. We're going to make sure that when they confront a situation, they understand all the things that can be there. Certainly, even things that are dealing with explicit and implicit bias. So that's what we're focused on, is building that better team. And if the Citizens Committee helps us do that and see holes that we don't see, then we're happy to look with them and work and see what we can do.
All right, and I don't see any new questions. So if we want to go ahead and close out, I think the last question probably went, or the answer went long enough that someone would have had time to comment a question even with the delay. So.
All right. Well, I will say, I think this has been good. We certainly have enjoyed and we'll continue to work this way with the press conferences. We're still debating after we potentially open up City Hall on the 7th, whether we all come back. I know some of the press are happy being where we are. And I think these have been good. I think there's some challenges like asking questions and waiting that probably could be a little bit better handled if we were all here physically in the same room. So again, we'll be looking at all those things going forward as we get ready to open back up. But again, a number of things are happening at opening. We are seeing increases in COVID, so continue to watch that. Continue to stay abreast of what's going on. I'll be back out Wednesday. I'm talking to the hospitals today, and I will share whatever information I get from the hospitals on Wednesday, and we'll look forward to go from there. So thank you very much for being here today, and have a great week. And looks beautiful out there. Should be a beautiful week.